The movie begins with a man standing on a rooftop of a luxury building. His name is called Edward Mora, but I would like to call him Eddie, just because it's a lovely nickname. Eddie is looking down at the bustling New York street below, thinking what to do next. Someone is banging on the door behind him, trying to get in. Eddie's voiceover tells us he is being hunted by a dangerous guy and things have spun wildly out of control. Eddie thinks it is better to jump than be in the hand of this ruthless guy. But suddenly this 1000 IQ guy come up with great plan. The movie then takes us to Eddie's life, back into his dumbest, low IQ times. Eddie is a broke, disheveled, and hopelessly struggling writer living in New York City. He lives in a messy rented apartment, and his book deal is falling apart because he can't even write a single sentence. To make things worse, his girlfriend Lindy breaks up with him, saying she's tired of him going nowhere in life. It's clear that Eddie has hit rock bottom, and there seems to be no way out of his slump. When returning to his apartment, Eddie bumps into Vernon, his ex-brother-in-law, on the street. Vernon looks successful and confident man. They go for a drink, and during their conversation, Vernon pulls out a little clear pill and tells Eddie that it's a miracle drug called NZT-48. He explains that it unlocks the full potential of the brain, making you smarter, sharper, and more focused than ever before. At first, Eddie is skeptical, thinking it's just another useless drug. But Vernon assures him that this pill can change his life. He offers Eddie a free sample, telling him to try it when he needs it most. Eddie doesn't think much of the pill at first. But back in his messy apartment, Eddie decides to swallow it, saying things couldn't get worse. When he arrives at his room, he meets his landlord's wife. She is angry about Eddie's overdue rent. Meanwhile, Eddie is experiencing a strange feeling of dizziness. But within a minute, his mind explodes with clarity. It's as though someone turned on a light in his brain. His eyes widen, and suddenly everything around him appears sharper, clearer, and more vibrant. He can hear music from his neighbor's apartment, and in an instant, he remembers an obscure fact about the composer of that song, something he read years ago but forgot until now. He can recall every detail from his entire life. He then looks at his landlord's wife who is shouting at him. Eddie's mind analyzes everything about her, and he notices the book in her hand is a law textbook. Instantly, he remembers random legal concepts he picked up from TV shows and books he read in college. Without hesitation, Eddie offers to help her with the assignment. To her surprise, Eddie speaks with charm, confidence, and precision, rattling off legal jargon and explaining complex concepts as if he were an expert. The landlord's wife is impressed and intrigued. She not only forgives his overdue rent but makes out with him too. After returning to his room, he begins to clean up and organize his messy room. He then begins to write his book, which once was an impossible job to do. Words are coming to him like never before. He can't even stop writing for a second. Within hours, he wrote many pages draft to show it as a sample for a publishing company. The next morning, Eddie wakes up feeling nobody again. His sharp and genius mind now becomes as normal as it was. Basically, the old messy Eddie is back. It seems the pill's effect can only last for 24 hours. But the good news is he has written some part of his novel. Eddie takes this writing to his publisher. At first, the publisher is skeptical, but later she can't believe how a broke guy can write such a world-class novel. Eddie doesn't like his messy, low IQ self. He wants to bring the enhanced Eddie back, but he needs the pill to make this reality. So, he visits Vernon's apartment. But when he arrives, he finds Vernon murdered. Clearly, someone was after his stash of NZT. Eddie calls the police but before leaving, finds a bag full of NZT pills in Vernon's hidden stash. He takes the pills and runs out of the apartment. With a steady supply of NZT, Eddie's life begins to change dramatically. He realizes that the effects of the drug are more than just mental clarity. They allow him to analyze, predict, and control situations with precision. At first, Eddie impresses his publisher by writing his entire novel in just 4 days. She tells him she can't even stop reading his novel. Eddie is now being invited to vacation by new friends. One day, when Eddie dives off a high cliff into the ocean, he realizes that there's more to life than just writing. Why stay stuck as an author when he could take on the world? He decides to use his intelligence to make money. Eddie turns his attention to the stock market, which seems like a perfect playground for someone with a supercharged brain. He fills himself with finance knowledge from books. To begin trading, he needs money. So, he borrows money from a Russian loan shark named Gennady, promising to return the money with interest in just a few days. Eddie sits at his computer and learns every trend of the stock market. He reads patterns in charts and stock figures faster than anyone else could comprehend. He reads complex financial reports like their bedtime stories, instantly absorbing all the relevant information. He uses this information to trade, and within just a few days, Eddie turns a few $1,000s into hundreds of thousands, and soon millions. People on Wall Street begin to notice him, whispering about this mysterious new player. His transformation is also physical. He gets a sharp new haircut, fancy clothes, and a whole new level of confidence. Now that Eddie is wealthy, confident, and successful, Lindy notices the change, but she can't figure out how Eddie turned his life around so quickly. She's happy to see him doing well. More interestingly, she begins to get attracted to him. Eddie and Lindy have now decided to return to their old romantic relationship. Eddie's success in the stock market catches the attention of Carl Van Loon, a powerful financial mogul. Carl invites Eddie to join his team and help him close one of the biggest business deals in history. Eddie agrees, seeing it as his golden ticket to become even more powerful and wealthy. Just when everything seems perfect, Eddie starts experiencing strange blackouts. Hours of his life begin to disappear from his memory. Now he is in one place. The next hour he wakes up somewhere else with no idea how he got there. He starts to understand that NZT has dangerous side effects. The next morning, Eddie found Carl's package sent to him to read over it and present his projections in the meeting later that day. But Eddie has no NZT pill in his home, his other stash is far away. He tries to do the job without the pill, but everything seems a bunch of code difficult to understand. It is time for the meeting. Eddie is barely present when Carl talks to him. In the meantime, Eddie watches the news reporting the girl he slept with yesterday is dead. Eddie is shocked by the news. He doesn't remember much of the night due to the blackouts from the pill's side effect. He is worried that he may be the murderer. This idea makes Eddie nauseated. He leaves the meeting and throws up in the street. When he returns to his home, Melissa, who is Eddie's ex-wife, called him to talk about the NZT. They then arrange a meeting. Eddie looks through Vernon's notebook. He finds Vernon's other clients with their phone number. After calling to all clients, Eddie shockingly finds out no one is healthy. Either they are dead or hospitalized. When Eddie meets Melissa, he can't recognize her. She looks like a homeless woman. She is telling her story to Eddie. Melissa was taking NZT pill long time ago, and she began to perform exceptionally like the others. But later she stopped taking the pill because she was worried about the side effects. She then began to experience drug withdrawal symptoms, including excruciating headaches. Then she began to lose her earlier mental capabilities. She couldn't even focus for more than 10 minutes without the pill. On their way out, she tells him to withdraw very slowly, because if he makes it abrupt, he will crash. While returning to his home, Eddie meets his loan shark Gennady. It turns out Eddie didn't return his money. Gennady is angry and hits Eddie, telling him to return his money quickly. But Eddie is weak to fight back since he hasn't taken the pill. Eddie then tries to take his pill while being punched, but Gennady finds out Eddie is holding something on his hand. Gennady then swallows it, thinking it is some kind of cocaine. Eddie withdraws money from a bank and gives it to Gennady. But Gennady is in another world. He is feeling invincible. Eddie is sick like never before. He needs to take NZT pill, but half of his stash is finished and the other half is located in his girlfriend's house. He goes to Lindy's office and tells her to bring his pill. But Lindy is confused since she doesn't know her boyfriend is taking some kind of medication. She asks him to tell her everything. Eddie has no choice but to tell her. While bringing the pills, Lindy notices someone is following her, and when he tries to attack her, she runs out of the taxi. The guy is chasing Lindy for the pill, and Eddie knows those guys are ruthless and will kill Lindy if they catch her. Lindy is now hiding from the guy, but she is stuck. She has nowhere to go. Eddie tells her to take the pill. At first, she hesitates, but later she takes it since she has no choice. Suddenly, she feels boosted with unimaginable brain power, and she finds a way out. She then runs to the skating area and uses a little girl's ice skate to hit the guy on his face and escape. Lindy gives the NZT pill to Eddie. She tells him they can't continue with their relationship from now on. But Eddie tries to convince her that he will stop taking the pill once he achieves his goals. But Lindy refuses his idea and tells him they will talk about their relationship only after he stops taking. After Lindy moved out, Eddie notices Gennady is staring at his house. Gennady wants more NZT pill. Eddie doesn't want to add another trouble to his current situation, so he gives him some pills until he finds a better permanent solution. Eddie returns to Mr. Carroll to apologize about what happened in their previous meeting. Carroll accepts his apology and warns him he won't accept similar behaviors again. Eddie is now brokering the biggest merger in corporate history. He has also found that if he keeps an even dose, remembers to eat, and drinks no alcohol, the blackouts won't come again. For security purpose, Eddie now keeps his stash at his pocket, and he has bought a secured fortress-like house and hired bodyguards to protect him from his loan shark Gennady. He has also hired a biochemist to begin making his own NZT within 6 months. The police are suspecting Eddie for a murder, so he hired the best lawyer in the country to deal with the legal issue. But it turns out that the lawyer knows Eddie is using NZT, and he wants to steal it from him. In one of the scenes, Eddie is discussing an issue with Mr. Carroll. A woman then gives him a delivery. But after opening it, he finds his bodyguard's hands chopped off and put on the box. He was shocked, and he knows only that stupid loan shark, Gennady, can do this since Eddie hasn't given him a pill for a week. Eddie then looks into his stash. Unfortunately, it is gone. That lawyer has stolen Eddie's stash when he needs it the most. Eddie is now back in his bunker house thinking it is the only safest place for him. But Gennady is banging his bunker house to enter. Eddie is getting weak and disoriented since he has missed his dose, and the only idea that comes to him at that time was to jump to the street. But suddenly he remembers the single pill he left at his older stash can. When Gennady enters the room, the pill slips away from Eddie's hand and gets lost. Gennady takes his pill in injection form, and tells his guys to look for the pill. In the meanwhile, Gennady is preparing his materials to make Eddie suffer, but Eddie stabs Gennady when he approaches him. Eddie can't do anything without the pill, so he decides to take a sip from Gennady's blood since he has taken an NZT injection moments earlier. Eddie regains his mental and body strength. He then manages to kill the other 2 guys. 12 months later, Eddie has a #1 best-selling book, and he is running to be New York Senator. Carl von Loon, the powerful business mogul Eddie worked with, pays him a surprise visit. Carl intends to remind Eddie who really holds the power. He tells him he knows about the NZT. He reveals that he has bought out the pharmaceutical lab that was producing NZT and now controls the only remaining supply of the drug. Carl makes it clear that he expects Eddie to play by his rules in the future, wants to stay sharp and remain successful. But Eddie has a surprise for Carl. He calmly tells Carl that he no longer needs NZT because he has figured out how to perfect the drug, adjust the formula and wean himself off it while maintaining the NZT effects permanent. Eddie's mind operates at full capacity without any pills, side effects, or dependency. To prove his point, Eddie demonstrates his uncanny abilities by accurately predicting the traffic accident before it even occurs. Then, just to rub it in, Eddie diagnoses Carl's heart condition simply by feeling the size and beat of the heart with his hands. Left stunned and speechless, Carl realizes that Eddie is far beyond his reach, and he can't manipulate him. Since Eddie is off the drug, he is now back with Lindy, and he is now truly in control of his life, with endless possibilities ahead of him. Do you think the world would be a fair place if this kind of drug were discovered in the future? Leave your comment below and let's discuss about it. If you like the video, give us a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe for more.